Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today we are talking about the aftermath of the presidential election because Twitter and Facebook are facing an onslaught of misinformation spreaders after this election, and they are trying to combat this. Here's what's going on. Obviously, the entire world has been watching the US election. It looks like we are very close to calling 270 electoral votes for Vice President Biden. He's currently at 264 now that he has picked up Michigan and Wisconsin, and it looks like Nevada, with its 6 votes, will get him over the line. But that is the backdrop for all of this because Twitter and Facebook on Tuesday started suspending several recently created, mostly news-based, quote-unquote news-based accounts that were posting misinformation about voting. Now, Twitter said that the accounts have been suspended for violating its policy against coordination by posting identical content while appearing to be independent or engaging in other covertly automated behavior. Now, one of those Twitter accounts that was suspended is called SV News Alerts. It has more than 78,000 Twitter followers, and it added more than 10,000 in the past week prior to the election. The account frequently warned of election-related unrest and highlighted issues with voting safety and reliability. This has been a common theme amongst misinformation spreaders on social media to essentially attempt to undermine the election. It pointed to fraudulent claims about the Democratic candidate, and it also called positive attention to the Republican candidate, obviously President Donald Trump, who is the Republican candidate, as well as his rallies and speeches. In fact, few, if any, major disruptions were reported at polling sites yesterday, which we were all thrilled to see. And both Civil Liberty Group and law enforcement were on high alert for anything, but it really didn't materialize. By all the reports, outside of protests in front of the White House in Washington, D.C., major cities really saw just a peaceful election, including my home city of Chicago as well, which was bracing for impact. Now, other accounts suspended by Twitter included FJ News Reporter, Crisis_Intel, and something called Faytuks, Faytuks. Some of the accounts in the past have suggested their readers to follow the others, meaning that entire coordination thing that they were talking about to attempt to make things go viral that weren't necessarily true. Facebook also got on this bandwagon and started suspending several accounts behind US-based pages called SV News and FJ News, citing quote-unquote inauthentic behavior. According to Facebook's moderators, the SV page, had more than 20,000 followers at the time that Facebook killed it. Now, some of these suspended accounts, and this is where it gets interesting, were closely read by the media in Russia, which obviously was accused of meddling in the 2016 election with disinformation. Both SV News Alerts and Faytuks, which only had 11,000 followers, have had their tweets highlighted dozens of times by Russian state-controlled news outlets like Sputnik and RT, and this is according to researchers, and then it was also confirmed by Reuters. Now, even as social media companies are taking this action, false or exaggerated reports about voting fraud and delays at the polls circulated throughout the day. As I watched various news outlets, everything from Fox News to CNN to Bloomberg to even the BBC, MSNBC, I like to watch everything from all sides of the news. I even tuned into RT on occasion. Basically, what they were saying is, for the most part, some states had reported things like Pennsylvania said that they were going to be delayed, as did North Carolina. But there was a lot of information about states saying that they were delayed or there was some kind of irregularity that simply didn't materialize as the states were officially reporting to major news outlets here in the United States, including Reuters and the Associated Press on the non-TV side of things. And so the FBI and New York Attorney General also, on top of all of this, said they were looking into essentially a whole bunch of robocalls that were urging people to stay home. I was looking at this yesterday as I was tracking all of this stuff for a video today. And multiple states, critical battleground states such as Georgia, for example, which has not officially been declared, but looks like it's going to be won by President Trump, where basically people were getting in strategic areas robocalls basically saying, don't stay home, COVID is spreading, or even threatening people if they go to the polls with harm, not to mention an email campaign that was seen a week prior. And so as we look at this election, and by all accounts, it looks like if Joe Biden, Vice President Biden, is able to maintain his lead in Nevada, which is worth 6 points, 6 electoral college points, if he wins that state, then that gets him to 270, and he technically then has enough electoral points to be considered the next president of the United States. But we are going to see legal challenges in a lot of these battleground states, specifically Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, possibly Arizona and Nevada as well. And so by virtue of that, we may see a rise of misinformation or disinformation that is essentially claiming things that aren't simply there. I have been tracking and trending the analysis of states as they basically, let's say, started a lead with President Trump and then flipped to Biden, or started a lead with Vice President Biden and then flipped to President Trump, and on and on and on. And it seems to me, as these states have been reporting things left and right, and I've been tracking this, and again, I'm probably going to be writing papers, or articles on this kind of thing in the aftermath of the election for misinformation, disinformation. Overall, this election really hasn't had many irregularities, and fortunately, it really hasn't had much violence except outside of the White House, where there were reports of Black Lives Matters and Antifa people essentially engaging with police. So we're going to see what happens. I'm not sitting here casting dispersions on any political side in one way, shape, or the other. This is the facts as I know them on the ground. You can love or hate the president, love or hate the vice president, Biden, whoever that is. Just understand this is what's going on, and this is as accurate as we get, but disinformation will continue to spread. And if you have some kind of confirmation bias, you may not be admitting it to yourself, but if you have one that leans you on one side of the political spectrum, you may be reading something that seems very right in your worldview, but is demonstrably false given all available evidence, including reporting by the secretaries of state of all 50 states that are the ones that are essentially running the election for their individual states. So that's where we're at. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Like I said, cybersecurity and technology, I think, is agnostic to politics, but we are not immune to it. And so I just wanted to relay as accurate information as I can. I have no doubt some people will call me an idiot or part of the cabal or whatever that is. I am just trying to be as accurate as I humanly can, because I think it's important, no matter who you voted for, that we respect the outcome of the election, but we also be accurate with what exactly is going on. The last thing we want is a panic due to false information, and so it's important to stay on top of these things. And so that is your post-election news of the day. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, and please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, everyone.